Today we're going to work on hip rotation with the rotation of your wrist, so fist, in blocks as well as punches or strikes. The idea is to combine them, so you wouldn't have the hip rotating and then the wrist rotating, or the wrist rotating and then the hip rotating. We start with Zuki, and in this case try and think of when the arm in front, doesn't matter if it's a fist or open hand, rotates, and when the back fist, in this case, start to rotate also. So first action, let's start with the fist so you don't get confused with open or clenched. Start with the fist, make sure that your chin is up. Occasionally I'll be looking down towards the camera, but in your case, look in front of the mirror if you can. The mirror is the best and worst of your friends, okay? Or enemy, depends on the way you perform. So from a fist action in front, one arm in front, one arm back. Hip area, okay? Koshi. So from there, you start by pulling the elbow back. You don't pull the fist back, you pull the elbow back. And the rotation makes the elbow go towards the body, not backward in a wide action, but in a very narrow and rubbing against the body. Don't do this action. This is what most people that practice punches tend to do, and I've seen that in many videos of people posting it on Facebook and YouTube, and that is the worst thing you can do, because people will see what you're doing and understand if you are not performing properly, or rather you're making noise for the sake of noise. Noise is not necessary. Even if you don't make noise, the punch should be correct, the strike should be correct, the blocks should be correct. Okay, so let's start. From Chokozuki, so standing position at Chichidachi, back straight, shoulders down, one arm in front, one back. Doesn't matter which one, it can be left or right. Don't worry too much about which one you start with, okay? You start to pull by elbow and you start to push by elbow. So the pull is elbow in, the push is fist forward. But still the elbow that pushes or the elbow that pulls. Don't think of the fist pulling back, okay? So rotation start at the very beginning of the pull and at the very end or towards the end of the push. So rotate and push. If you practice, make sure you practice this action many times, then you can carry on. So, slow action. When you practice standing, not stepping, and this position, don't need to rotate your hips. Okay? Only when you have a stance as in Zenkutsudachi, Kokutsudachi, Kibadachi, and so on and so forth, then you include the hips. At the first instance, concentrate on arms. Then we add the hips. Okay? So, after this action, which should be for quite a long time, don't think, it's boring. If you want to achieve a senior level, that is the only way to do it, and that's what masters do. Masters practice this kind of things because it's the most important part. So as we said, you rotate outward, gai-wan, and you rotate inward, nai-wan. Ni, na. Okay? Nai-wan, gai-wan, nai-wan. Nai-wan at the end. Gai-wan at the beginning. So try to remember the rotation is outward or inward. Outward is, if you can remember gai-jin, that means they are an outsider, a foreigner. Gai means that you are out, rotating out. In this case, one is the forearm. So gai-wan, nai-wan, in. Okay? So Chokozuki is exactly this practice. There is only a straight line. There are no round action at all. Straight forward, straight backward. Just concentrate on this action and feel that you are rubbing the entire side of your forearm, which is now called the outside of the forearm, inward. Okay, so rubbing in. Okay, okay. So that is for the chokuzuki. Next one, we're going to start working on the blocks. Blocks start similar to punches, depends on, of course, the block. There's always a rotation towards the end. That is where the similarities are. Sometimes you turn at the very beginning in order to get ready for the end result. In agi-uke, you start exactly the same as a punch, but going upward. So it's not going just forward, but going upward. What you do is do not change the angle of the elbow. Elbow remain the angle. Yeah? There's no pushing and letting go of the forearm, just keep it. And what you tend to do, try to remember, is this action towards the outside of your chin. Okay, so you go towards the outside. So with the right, you go towards the left goes towards the right. Remember, it's a similar situation of the chokuzuki, slightly higher, and when you see your fist level with your eyes, and then you can rotate your forearm. Okay? Don't think of rotating the fist, because otherwise you start to do this silly thing. So the idea is to rotate One thing that I notice quite often is that the elbow is in front of your fist rather than the other way around. Your fist should always be away from your body rather than the elbow away from the body. Anytime you extend the elbow out, you become weak. Unless you punch it, then you have the actual body to support you, the power of your body. So when you block, make sure you go upward and then rotate. Rotate. And move backwards so you can see the entire arm rotation. And you can see this area. Pushing, not pulling. So don't think of going back with the opposite hip of the block, but think of going forward with the block in one. If you practice with both arms, of course, it's exactly the same. You rotate first as you push. The elbow is always going backward, it's never going outwards. So you pull down as you push up, and then you rotate. So you shouldn't be able to see your fist. If you're facing a mirror, you shouldn't be able to see the fist, which means that the elbow is really further back. It's not sticking out this way, but in. So the idea is to have your elbows going inward rather than just backward. So shouldn't be able to see that at all. So agi-uke, rising block. Again, do not go around. A lot of people do that. Try to think of hand or fist always on the outside, so on the opposite side to the blocking arm. So if you block with one, that fist should be on the outside of the other shoulder, not above your head or in front of your head, slightly to the side. So there is no gap between your elbow and your face. It should be here rather than here. Okay, so again, make sure you rotate, square, rotate. Again, shouldn't be able to see the elbow or the fist. Okay, so blocking, open, finish the block. The rotation, okay, should not mean the wrist rotate. The wrist, in this case, similar to most of the blocks, does not twist. There is no rotation. What you rotate is the forearm rather than wrist. Okay, don't do this, but rotate the forearm. The forearm should remain straight. So the top should remain straight. Okay, we have in a way 4 sides. Okay, you have underneath, the inside, the top, and the outside. Okay, so the outside is gai-wan, as we said before, nai-wan. Okay, the top one is hai-wan, and sui-wan. Underneath sui-wan. Okay, so when you turn, make sure that you are with hai-wan straight, never bent. Okay, this part here. Similar to when you punch. Okay, when you punch, you don't do this. So when you block, exactly the same. All the blocks are the same. There should be no wrist rotation, upward, downward, or sideways. Always straight. So you can remember to rotate and both rotating at the same time. So squarish, yeah, relax, and so in a way you have to think that the elbow is pushing, so the elbow of the blocking arm is pushing the hip forward, not the pulling elbow pulling the hip back. You only pull the arm, you don't pull the hip. Okay? It's only a visual thing, if you like. It's an illusion that when you block, you're going backward. No, when you block, you're going forward. Action is forward action, not backward. Okay? So try to remember the agi-uke. Next, we're going to do the gedan-burai. Gedan-burai starts over the opposite shoulder and relaxing the body, of course. And again, we start with the standing position so you don't get too mixed up. We do all the blocks this way, and then we do them in front stance, which is the easiest one for you to practice. So don't have to think too much about what the legs are doing. Think about today what the wrists are doing, arms are doing. Okay. Then we have the rotation together with. So we said gedan-burai. Gedan-burai starts over the shoulder. Again, all the blocks are made huge to start with. Eventually, when you fight, when you perform the techniques for real, everything is very small. It's more detailed than power. Details, okay? Don't think of, you have muscles coming out of your nose as such. Think of your power is in the rotation and the understanding of timing. So it's more here than here, okay? So gedan-burai. Start over the opposite shoulder. The wrist is still straight, always straight, similar to punching, always straight, both, front one and back one. When you pull, remember it's the elbow that's pulling back. The front one is pushing forward, but it's not going out of the body, it's just going and stopping there. Then you have a rotation, so the elbow doesn't carry on. In a way, it's almost stopping there as it is now. It's only the body that moves. So don't think of pushing the elbow out, but push forward. Again, we're doing a little rotation just to make it easier to understand, but don't think rotation first. It's always only arm first and then hips. Okay, so arms, then hips. Again, try and think of this one going inward rather than just backward. You shouldn't be able to see the elbow sticking out. There should be no gap between the body and the elbow. Okay, so you start, you relax, you start pulling, and then rotate. The arm doesn't go too far from the body, it's just as it was when you started, in line. Not much in between. Okay, so you push, you pull, rotate. The moment you rotate one, you rotate the other, hip and wrist, same time. So you rotate first when pulling, last there. When you change, it goes to the center again. Relax your body, shoulders down, okay? And repeat exactly the same. So the pulling arm, rotate first. Forearm rotate, not the blocking arm. The blocking arm is just going downward. There is no wrist rotation whatsoever. Downward. And the last moment, you rotate. Upward, backward, rotate. Upward, backward, rotate. Try and make sure that you are together. Upward, rotate. So upper block, downward block. Next we do the outside block and then the inside block. Concentrate as much as possible on when to rotate more than how strong your blocks are. Blocks don't need to be strong if you do it correctly. The idea is that you do them at the correct time. Make sure your connection, when you touch the opponent's arm, is the last possible moment for them to change direction. If you do it early, then they can change and still get you with a punch or a kick. So we said outside block first. Again, you don't need to think open hand or clenched fist at the moment. Just keep it both together. It's easier this way. So again, the rotation is back and forward. No rotation. Remember, when you're going forward, you don't rotate to start with. You start the rotation towards the end. So the first rotation is the front arm and the push. Then you rotate. If you start, make it slow, so it's rotate and pull, push. So it's almost like you're working together, you're pulling the string together. Both hands are pulling together. They must work together. But there is no rotation yet, okay? Then you rotate. When you start again, from back here, go up. Next to your temple, palm facing front, of course, but wrist always straight. So, same as before, pull towards side of the ribs, okay? You pull, you push. The push is forward, not round. There are no round actions at all. It is forward, then rotate. Yeah? Forward, rotation. Most of the time what we tend to do a lot is over-rotate. You're only protecting this part of the body, so if you over-rotate, you're opening the other side. Whenever you finish, should be in line with the center of your body, protected, not further out. So with one, you finish with the other. One, finish with the other. Okay. So next one is the inside block, or uchi. Okay. This time you start by going on the opposite side. Okay. Similar in a way to Gedangurai. Gedangurai starting on the opposite side of the body and then rotate it. The inside block starts on the opposite side, but this time is palm facing down. So you start palm up, down, then towards you. Okay. Again, pointing and relax the body, shoulders down. Always think of shoulders up. You start to pull. The pull doesn't change. Okay. Pull, push. You're pushing forward, not outward. Okay. You push forward, then you rotate. So remember, pulling, pushing, rotating. Pulling, pushing, rotating. So the rotation is always last part. Pulling, pushing, rotating. Pulling, pushing, rotating. So in a way, the wrist in outside block and inside block ends the same spot. There's not much difference because you're still doing a pushing action outside your body. So if the attack is coming this way and you're doing outside block, think of your right arm or your left arm against the opposite side of the opponent. So the right against the left against the right. So you push it on the outside of the body. The inside block is the right against the right, the left against the left. So again, twisting the opponent one way or the other. Twisting the opponent so they cannot score with the next strike. Inside block, pushing this way. Outside block, pushing that way. Okay? Opposite direction depends on the block you're using. When you do the next one is Shotokan, which I really think is difficult because we're trying to use it rarely, okay? But also because we don't really understand the block. It's not a difficult block, it's just that we don't really understand it. We don't do enough to understand the blocks, or rather which part you're using to make the rotation, in this case, deflection, not strike. You can use the same as a strike, shoto-uchi, but think at the moment of blocking. When you block, you start to use this part, and then you finish the other way. So you don't turn first and then do that. That would be a strike. Since it's a block, you make contact and then you rotate. The pulling arm, I'll do this way so you can see better, is not pulling the body back, it's just pulling the arm back. But don't think of going too far back with the body. In fact, the arm is stopping in the middle anyway. Opposite arm is forward. So don't think of rotating the body too much, which is one of the big mistakes we do. We tend to rotate instead of pushing. The arm should stop roughly where the solar plexus is, rather than further back. Solar plexus, the way to remember is making a fist, center, open. Center, open. Not here, not the center here. The center is always when you make a fist, exactly there. So, open. When you start, again, similar to a good umbrella, so we have three at the moment that are similar. They go to the opposite side of the body to block. So you prepare, you make it bigger to start with, to understand when to rotate and how to rotate. Then it can be very short, very small, but more powerful because of the inclusion of what you use with the hips. Okay? So you start, you sway both hands open, and you go over, okay? Over the opposite shoulder, you pull and you push. Same as before, there is no rotation first. You just push. Just push. Just push. Just push. Okay? Just push. So Shotokan is not different really. It's a pull and push. Rotate. When you rotate, remember that you are pushing, not sideways, but forward. You push against your opponent, not sideways. You're pushing directly towards your opponent. Okay? The rotation is a forward motion, not a backward motion. So don't go with the hip back, go with the opposite hip. The one is striking. Forward. Forward. So you travel forward, pushing with the hip and pushing with the outside edge, the little finger side of the open hand. Shotokan. Okay? So rotate, pull, push, push. Think of this action rather than this action. Don't pull back, and your body shouldn't be straight here. Should be at an angle, and me, not square, at an angle. So not pulling too much. Pulling too much, as in most cases, you lose your body. Okay, you detach the arm from the body instead of being together. The body is supporting the arm rather than the arm on its own. Okay, so we said all the techniques that we've done today are to do with the body, rotation of the forearm, not the wrist. Okay, when you do it in front stance, nothing changes. I'll do this way so you can see what the hips do as well. So for the gedanbarai, okay, you are pushing forward, pushing forward. Your rotation is towards the end, towards the end. Always the same. For the agi-uke, the rising block, towards the end. And again, pushing away from you. They say roughly a fist away from forehead to forearm. Okay, rather than elbow in front, should be the fist in front. So elbow closer to your face, okay, rather than elbow away from your face. So agi-uke, okay, twist your body. Okay, for the outside block, Again, pulling forward, pulling and forward, pulling and forward. So think of pulling somebody's arm and pushing forward. Again, pushing forward. Okay, twisting, last movement. The inside block is the same. You pull back and you push forward. Shotokan in back stance, you push. Again, the idea is not to think too much of going too far away. You have to keep your elbow as close to the body as possible. Not touching, but almost, okay? Roughly one fist away from you. So, Shotokan rather than too far. When you perform, try and think of pushing in back stance. Yeah. You can do it in front stance, of course. There are plenty of techniques that require front stance. Yeah, front stance. But normally when you practice Shoto, you tend to accompany it with a back stance. But only for basic principles. Eventually, the stance doesn't really matter. It depends more on what you're using it for. So remember all the techniques, hips, forearms, elbows, must be together. Okay, you push out, stop there, then, so the elbow is not really going around at all. It's going down and forward and then rotating. Down and forward, rotating. Down and forward, rotating. Forward, rotating. Forward, rotating. So don't think of the elbows going too far away from your body. Okay? So please practice in slow motion this rotations, okay? The entire point is to make sure that contact for Shotokan, contact for Uchiuke, contact always at the end, then rotate. So it depends on which part of your wrist you're using to block. Make sure you contact first. Rotate as you touch. Not stop, then rotate. Not rotate, then go. Okay? Towards the end. Towards the end. Okay? Towards the end. Towards the end. Towards the end. Always towards the end of the action. Hips, forearm, elbows, relax. Okay? Arigatou gozaimasu. See you soon.